In our strategy, we use a phased macro framework. We are not predicting recessions. We are tracking confirmation, sequencing, and pressure as the cycle evolves. Labor is one of our confirmation tools, not a leading signal. The Sahm Rule is often described as one of the most reliable recession indicators ever created. That reputation is mostly deserved, but it is also frequently misunderstood, especially when people try to use it as a forecasting tool. At Builder's Lens, we do not ask whether the Sahm Rule predicts recessions. We ask a more useful question: what phase of the cycle does labor market stress confirm? That framing changes how the signal should be used. The Sahm Rule is a labor market rule created by economist Claudia Sahm. It triggers when unemployment rises meaningfully from a recent low, specifically when the 3-month average rises by about 0.5%. In plain terms, labor conditions are already deteriorating. The Sahm Rule was not designed to predict downturns years in advance. It was built to identify recessions as they are beginning. That design choice matters because it explains why the signal appears late. Historically, when the Sahm Rule triggers, recessions are already underway. Employers are slow to lay off workers. Labor is usually the last thing to break. Once it does, stress has already spread. This is the key distinction. The Sahm Rule does not warn that trouble is coming. It confirms that trouble is already here. That makes it powerful, but also late cycle. Many investors expect the Sahm Rule to act as an early warning system. That expectation is misplaced. By the time unemployment rises meaningfully, credit conditions and margins are already under pressure. In our strategy, signals are evaluated by how stress travels. Credit tightens first, margins compress next. Labor confirms that stress has reached households. In early phases of the cycle, labor often looks healthy. Unemployment is stable or falling. The Sahm Rule is silent. That can coexist with growing credit stress beneath the surface. As the cycle moves into phase 2, stress becomes uneven. Layoffs begin in specific sectors. Hiring slows, but not uniformly. The Sahm Rule may approach trigger levels without staying there. Brief or isolated Sahm signals do not confirm recessionary phases. They suggest rolling stress, not systemic damage. In our strategy, that aligns with phase 2 behavior. Stress exists, but it is not yet widespread. The Sahm Rule becomes most relevant in phase 3. This is the forced liquidation phase. Unemployment rises broadly. Layoffs spread beyond isolated sectors. When the Sahm Rule triggers and remains elevated, it confirms that economic damage is no longer contained. Balance sheet stress has moved into households. That is a phase 3 confirmation signal. In recent years, partial Sahm signals have appeared repeatedly. Some observers interpret that as a broken indicator. A more accurate view is increased labor volatility. Credit and liquidity have delayed full adjustment. In 5-phase terms, partial Sahm signals align with phase 2. Sustained triggers would confirm phase 3. Isolated triggers without credit stress are not decisive. Labor confirms damage. It does not lead it. If this kind of signal-based framing is useful to you, subscribing helps you stay grounded in process instead of headlines. The goal here is not predictions. It is understanding where we are in the cycle as it evolves. Quick disclaimer: this is educational macro-analysis only. It is not financial advice. The Sahm Rule answers one question very well. Has labor market stress become broad and persistent? That is its strength. It is a confirmation tool. It cannot predict market tops. It cannot time crashes. And it cannot override credit and liquidity signals. Sequencing still matters. In our strategy, the Sahm Rule is a phase 3 signal. It increases confidence that forced liquidation is underway. It does not trigger action by itself. It confirms that a line has already been crossed. When the Sahm Rule is sustained, confidence in recessionary conditions rises. Household stress becomes part of the equation. Policy response risk increases. It does not replace credit signals. It does not override liquidity conditions. It does not justify being early. Confirmation still comes first. The Sahm Rule is powerful precisely because it is late. It confirms recessionary conditions. It validates systemic labor stress. It aligns with forced liquidation phases. In our strategy, we do not need labor to warn us. We need it to confirm. We do not need to be early. We just cannot afford to be late.